This is Jacob Burgess.
Hi, everybody.
Do you want to give a little bit of a introduction about who you are, what you've worked on?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, but you should probably introduce yourself first.
Oh shit. Okay. Wow. So I'm Brooke. I'm behind the camera. I'm the lead writer on the game. It's You a Breakup Story from BR Warner Studios, and I'm sort of the person who's gotten this whole operation together and ran the Kickstarter and hired Jacob so he could be here today and say all kinds of mean things to me over a headset. Because I guess I'm just a masochist and you're kind of complicit in that.
Let's be clear. It's because you wrote it.
Right.
Okay, I wasn't just in there going like, you know what, Brooke, why don't you go to hell, you son of a bitch.
Okay, sweet. So do you want to talk a bit about who you are, where you've been, your involvement in the games industry?
Sure. So my name is Jacob Burgess. I'm a voice actor and a games writer. As a voice actor, I have been in Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, Baldur's Gate Siege of Dragonspear, Infinifactory, Glitch Hikers, Guns of Icarus Online, and a host of other games. I just recently wrapped up my first AAA title, which I'm not sure whether or not I can talk about.
Let's not get me in any trouble.
Oh yeah, no, I don't want to get. No, I don't. I legit don't know whether or not I can mention it, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, that should be coming out soon. I'm the voice actor in It's You a Breakup Story.
Lead voice actor.
Lead and only sort of voice actor, unless there's more you'd like to say about that.
We'll keep that under wraps for now.
We'll tease that.
Okay.
Let's see. And then as a games writer, I've worked on the Pathfinder tabletop RPG and Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, which is a D&D branded idle clicker game. I got to do their holiday events and like help them edit and kind of get things squared away and help get them kind of like launched and right stepped towards the future. That was great. And then today I just got announced that I'm going to be writing for Onyx Path for Wraith the Oblivion for the Book of Oblivion with Cassandra Caw. I'm super, super excited about that.
Book of Oblivion?
The Book of Oblivion. So it's the very first supplement for Wraith of Oblivion. So you've got like the core rule book, which will come out.
Oh, I see.
And then the very first supplement for like extra like deep information, things like that. I'm going to be working with a horror author and all-around wonderful, amazing person and amazing games writer as well, Cassandra Caw, and we're going to be fleshing out the land of the dead of South and Southeast Asia. It's going to be really freaking cool.
Wow, sweet. Yep. So you write words, you read words?
I'm a wordsman. Yes, I do all of the words.
Have you ever read something that you have written? Have you ever done both?
Nope.
Or is that
nope.
A no-no?
It's not a no-no. It's something that I don't usually do. I mean, I've written some stuff and I read it aloud or I'll record it to make sure that it sounds natural, but writing dialogue is way, way different than writing prose. Reading prose is way, way different. So it's a weird ass Venn diagram, but no, I haven't done that yet. No.
Right.
Oh, and then I did some writing for another video game, which again I'm not sure whether or not I can talk about.
Okay. Which again, I don't have a lawyer, so.
Huh? Yeah. No, let's not do that. But like, there's other stuff out there that NDAs are a hell of a drug.
Yeah, well, you've certainly been around. So we just got finished doing our recording session for some of the transitional glue of the game, but also I would say the most ratcheted up, most angry, most vitriolic stuff that's in there for at the very end of it. Do you want to...
We literally just got done with that like 10 minutes ago.
Yes, so it's quite fresh. Do you want to... I don't know, do you want to talk a bit about like how you feel coming out of that? Like, what's going on in your mind?
Man, it's weird to be interviewed like right after I get out of a session that's really emotionally charged. Boy, tired.
Tired? Yeah.
When you get out of a session like that, when when you pour the character that you wrote is a terrible human being. He's awful, and that's kind of the point of the game. And sort of when I don't know if this is right, but sometimes when I do my elevator pitch or when people ask me about this project, I kind of say it's like the reverse dating game.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. Yeah.
Like it's a reverse dating sim.
It's repellent.
It is absolutely repellent. This isn't like a haha fun reverse dating sim, but this is real. This is as real as it could be of what it's like to go through a breakup with somebody awful, and putting myself in that place is difficult. It's very emotionally difficult. So what's going through my mind right now is I'm really tired and reminding myself that I'm an okay person. Like, I'm all right. I'm not that bad. Because sometimes to put yourself in a place like that, you've got to mind your own experience. And I've unfortunately had a lot of encounters and have had people in my life that are as terrible as this guy is. And my job as an actor is to serve as best I can the intent behind the writing and the intent behind the game. And can you hear me okay? I'm not projecting. My job is to serve the intent behind the game and to serve the words as best I can. And you know, I'm a mercenary through and through, but this performance is a service and it has to be handled well, but not too well, so people can still get through it. So it's not just an abusive thing in and of itself.
Yeah, and I brought this up for anyone who's seen our the video Kickstarter update I did after our first session. One of the things that came up there was like some of it was like too much. Yeah, like
dude, that first session was brutal.
Yeah, like I wrote it, and when I wrote it, I was like, this is fine. You know, this is not going to be too bad. And then before we even got there, when we were leading up to that point, we were reading like the medium stuff, and I was already like feeling uncomfortable just listening to you. I was like, oh, I don't know if I.
Yeah, and when we got to that, and like I read a little bit, I was like, are you sure you want to go here, man? You're like, I don't know, let's give it a shot. And I was like, okay, I want to put you in the position of the player. I'm going to read these things at you, not to you, but imagine I was saying these things to you.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to be putting people through.
Yeah.
And then we both went like,
nope.
No.
No.
After about 2 paragraphs, I was like, no, too much. And then you were like, no, too much. And then we kind of went through a rewrite process and got to where what we did today, which I think is much. It is still very emotionally impactful, but it is much more. It's still gonna be rough as fuck, but it's not gonna be.
It's not bludgeoning.
It's an example of abuse. It's not abusive in and of itself.
Yeah. I think it's a bit more to things that you may have heard in your own life.
Maybe
like more extreme versions.
Man, this shit is rough, straight up rough. If somebody has heard these things in their own life, then they need to get the fuck away from that person.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there are people that have had experiences like this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether to look at you or into the camera. It's weird.
Do you want me to, I can
No. I'll just take one. It's
so I look at the
I'll
camera.
just look at the camera.
I won't look at you.
Don't look at me, I'm a monster. No! The day moon. But this is gonna have a lot of impact, and you're asking me what's going through my head is that, like, honestly, I feel the reason that I wanted to do this is that I feel that this game is can do a lot of good, and especially because once the game is released, 20% of the proceeds are going to be going to a charity that I really, really believe in. And can you talk about the charity a little bit, just to get that on there?
Yeah, sure. It's the Atira Women's Resource Society. So they operate in BC and Vancouver, and it was recommended to me through a friend of mine who's involved with, who's been a bit more involved in like city resources and working on hotlines and stuff like that. And they provide transitional housing, specifically. They provide transitional housing to trans people who, maybe are fleeing abusive relationships, so that they actually have somewhere to stay. And they have a lot of other programs. I'll link to their website when I release this video. It's on our project page too.
Cool.
But
and I it's something that I really, really believe in as well. And I think that this game, even though it is difficult, I think that this game could perform a service and do some good for some people. But I feel guilty because I know that this game is going to, no matter how many disclaimers and whatnot we put up, and just like be really careful when you do this and be careful when you play this, and like have a stuffed animal close by or something like that, because there is the potential for people need to go into this aware of what this is.
yes.
And I feel guilty because if I have done my job correctly, this game is going to put some people through some shit. But that's the service.
Yeah, we're in a very tricky, I think would be understating it, space here.
Yes.
Of like trying to convey, because that's part of it for me, is sometimes with like my personal experience with like my own issues in my past, of like just trying to convey sometimes what is going on to people and what it feels like. Because I think sometimes the problem I always personally had was, how do you, I could never explain it to anyone that I felt it would actually be convincing unless they already believe me. Like if it's my friend who like, cares about me and I have an intimate relationship with them, if I just say this person's doing a bad thing to me, they're just gonna accept it, right?
Yep.
Like they take it, the telling, as the truth.
Yep.
But when you try to, if someone doesn't get it, you try to explain it, like, I don't know, it gets jumbled in your head, and there's all these small things and ways things were phrased that like, if you just take that sentence out of context and out of like the million other times it's been used, like people are just like, oh, like I don't get it. It seems like just a normal thing to say. And that to me is like exploring and understanding it from like a first person perspective, but like balancing that out with not like doing a terrible thing to people.
To someone, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I really like the fact that you had a diversity reader panel as well, that you shopped it out to women and people of color, and you had a bunch of diversity readers because, well, we're a couple of white dudes with beards, and we don't always make the best decisions, because there's just some things that are outside of our experience, and we don't necessarily know how this might affect somebody. And part of the rewrite process was shopping that out. And
yeah,
that was great. I like that, because if this didn't have that, I wouldn't
be as comfortable.
I wouldn't have wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have signed on.
Yeah.
Like, to be very honest, I wouldn't have signed on. I would have been like this, yay money, but not, no. Yeah. And
like a lot of this game was like experiences of me with like my experience coming more from like family issues, and then like other people on the writing team with their own experiences. I don't want to speak to them because that would be let them do themselves. But Yeah.
But you had as writers, you had you. Who else did you have?
It's me. It was me and Tracy.
Tracy.
It was just the two of us who
Who's
did
Tracy?
all of the Tracy Doe. She's yeah, you haven't met her.
I haven't met her. No.
Yeah, she's from Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I was moving here like as we were starting this game, and
Okay.
yeah, she was in. She's a bit less involved now outside of some editing, but through the first draft of like putting everything together, we kind of did it to
That's good.
get it together and in stages, and
That's really
had
good.
a lot of conversations. So yeah,
Good.
yeah, it's been yeah, the sorry, wow, I'm just taking in all that stuff.
Yeah. I get it.
So I'll go to some questions we received from comments on our Kickstarter and Facebook and stuff.
Cool.
And if you folks in the chat have any questions, follow up to anything that's been said or new stuff, feel free to throw them out. Otherwise, I'm just going to start asking Jacob all kinds of nonsense. Yeah, so Sarah asks, how much improv and reworking lines did you have doing when scripts get read aloud for the first time?
Generally, it's not super polite to do that without permission of the director first, because the writer wrote what they wrote for a reason. And if you are the actor and you're in the booth and you're just like being like, well, I think this line should be like this. It's like taking a giant dump on the writer's desk. That being said, a lot of it is collaborative. So generally, if you are going to do some improv stuff with the director's permission, and if things are great and perfect, the writer is also in the room at the same time, and probably no one else except for maybe a sound engineer, because too many cooks tend to spoil the pot a bunch. You work with the director beforehand, and you improv to their level of comfort and your level of comfort if you're good with it. There were a couple of lines with this because Brooke and I talked before that he wanted it to sound natural, like somebody was talking on the phone. So if there was like a couple of janky articles or something like that,
Yeah.
you know, we changed it and smoothed it over. He was like, if you want to throw in a couple of like extra lines or whatnot at the end, go ahead. So and then just at the end of this session, he was like, we didn't write them, but I think they'd be useful. So I just sat down for 5 minutes and he gave me a broad category, and I just improv'd a couple of other like, you know, lines and things like that. I am a trained improv actor. Some actors aren't trained that way or aren't comfortable doing that. Some are, some aren't. Words are the only thing I'm good at, so I am comfortable doing so. And if the director is comfortable giving me a little bit of rope, happy to hang myself with it.
Yeah. And this one, like, I noticed you like were very not nervous, but you wanted to establish the ground rules first.
Yes.
I've never directed voice acting before. I'm also not a director, except the fact that I've now done it.
Did a pretty good job.
Yeah, there certainly seems to be like I kind of guessed based on like how you were tiptoeing about it and not trying to push it on me that there's probably some culture out there that like, you know, some would probably consider quite rude.
Yes. As far as with the actor-director relationship, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The directing is hard. Directing is a very difficult thing. I've had some really good instruction on how to direct. I've had some amazing voice directors out there. Amazing, who I love working with, and anytime I get to, I absolutely do. One dude is named Michael Surix. He owns Bright Skull Entertainment out of LA, and anytime I get a chance to work with him is just fucking fantastic, because he gives you a safe space to like do everything you need to do, and knows how to communicate with the individual actors to get the best stuff out of them as possible. I had to do some efforts and some screams and things like that. One of my favorite directions I've ever gotten, I had to do efforts and screams, and I wasn't quite getting there. And then he just like hit the talk back button, which is like the let us hear you, and I was like doing screams, and he goes, you need to sound like the Big Show just chopped you in the chest, which is a wrestling reference, because he knows that I love wrestling, and immediately like clicked in, got there, boom, and then we moved on and just like kept knocking things out. It was great. But actors are puppies almost in the booth. All we want to do is make you happy. All we want to do is make the people that are outside of the booth happy, because you're the people that hire us, and our jobs are very, very small and very tough to get. Anytime you get cast, it's a miracle. So we just want to be there and make you happy and do our job and do what we need to do. So if, like, we hear somebody, like, saying, like, oh, that wasn't that good, that just, like, fucking takes all the air out, instead of, you know, and yeah, there's a lot of fragile ego, because to get real artsy-fartsy with it, what we are doing is we're going in there and we're just taking off all of our emotional clothes and going, like, here are our emotions, meh, like, here they are. And we're very vulnerable and very fragile when we're in the booth, because we want to do a good job so we can get rehired. We are trying to embody whatever it is we need to do as earnestly as possible, because a large part of acting is telling the truth. It doesn't have to be your truth, but it has to be the truth of whatever the fuck it is you're doing. It's hard, and sometimes it emotionally hurts. So, like, if a director goes like, nah, that kind of sucks, you know, do it this way, this is better. Or even worse, if they start, well, not even worse, but something that I don't personally like is if somebody gives you a line read.
Because they say, like,
they say,
can you
say
read
it like this. Yep, that's exactly it. Yep. That's not always the best. I mean, yeah, if you're like, there's budgetary concerns, it's not all like hearts and flowers, artsy fartsy, let's hug each other. Sometimes it's just a job and you need to get the fuck out of there. Fine, you're paying me. If you want to give me a line read, boom, I'll do it. But there's a part of me as an artist that's like, I just want to do my job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when we first met, I kind of asked you, like, what's the, like, I've never worked with a voice actor before, like, give me what I need to know to make this work, this relationship work well. And that was like a big thing for you, which was like just the framing of feedback in the midst of all of this stuff going on. Because from how you describe it, like, it sounds like it's a very vulnerable position to be in when you're, like, right in the thick of it.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're in there, you might as well be naked. Like, it's that vulnerable. You might as well just be, like, in your nothing, in your birthday suit. Yeah, and everybody around you has either pillows or pins.
Yeah.
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 I got another question. This one's from the chat.
Sure.
From It's Quasart. They want to know, are there any noteworthy differences between working on AAA projects and smaller indie ones like this one? I'm sure there's at least one difference.
It's in what regard? I mean, there's definitely budget differences between, like, a AAA game and not.
Right. We're currently in my apartment.
Right.
So that's probably a bit of a difference.
We're in Brooke's apartment. But Brooke actually made a lot of effort to make sure that I was comfortable, and converted an entire closet into a sound booth. For this session, I brought my own equipment down, but last session he actually rented equipment and whatnot, and actually set up a really well functioning sound booth, and, like, had tea for me, and, like, straight up treated me better than sometimes when I do, like, larger, bigger budget stuff. And it was great. It was awesome, and I was able to get comfortable in the space that I needed to, and we thought it was going to take 4 hours. It ended up taking 3 or so. Yeah, and it was fantastic. It was awesome. I mean, budget is really, I mean, I'm sure if a lot of indie titles had a ton of money for their voice actors, you know, sometimes a lot of, like, AAA folks, you know, we get to fly down to LA and do a complete ensemble recording, and that's amazing. That's what we did for Masquerada. Like, I was in the same booth with a whole bunch of other people, because most video games are recorded. Like, I do my thing, you do your thing. Sometimes whoever goes first has to sometimes do the most work, because then they can play their lines for the other people and they can react to it. So the first person has to do most of the imagination. Sometimes it works that way, sometimes it doesn't. I've recorded things at my own studio at home for indie games. I've rented out studios and we've done, like, a remote in. You get the job done however you can get the job done. I mean, yeah, in an ideal world, we'd all have a ton of money and an ensemble recording would be amazing, and everybody would get paid a lot, and there'd be, like, you know, residuals forever, so actors don't have to ever worry about money again or anything like that. Like,
yeah,
you know, there are a ton of differences, and to go into them are like, mostly it's a budget. like budgetary concerns and things like that. But I've made sure that my career can always allow me to do indie games because they gave me my start, and I love them so, so much. And I mean, truth be told, I don't make my living mostly on video games. Like, that's not what pays the best. Even AAA titles, even bigger titles and things like that, don't. And I've just started breaking into that. Hopefully, I'm going to keep doing that. But it's harder for me because I live in Victoria, BC, and I have to travel a lot for work. For my weird ass voice acting career, I have to work way harder at it than like say if I lived in LA. But factors in my life won't, you know, I won't be doing that because there are for reasons. I won't be doing that for reasons, but I still work down there, but it's you know, it's a lot of work. Anyway, sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there. But yes, budgetary concerns are usually the biggest things.
Is there a difference in like the sort of relationship between you and the director? Or is that just more like different directors are
It
completely
depends.
different?
Sometimes a lot of indie titles, like the people that are working on the game are the director, because on indie titles you've got to wear 1,001 hats.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're able to hire like a voice person, like somebody who can do casting.
Yeah.
Usually AAA folks either have their own in-house voice director, or they hire somebody to do all the casting, like Michael Sirk from Bright Skull.
Yeah.
To do all the casting and everything for them. Indie folks usually sometimes find their friends and who have no acting training, and they just go like, here's a microphone, do the thing. And then sometimes they actually have like good relationships with like voice actors and things that go to conventions and stuff like me.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a weird damn industry, and there's 1,001 ways to get good voiceover into your game. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds pretty variable.
Yeah. Yep. It's a lot of work. Yeah. It's a lot of hustle. Hustle.
Okay. Here's a question from a Kickstarter comment. This is gonna lean a bit more into the serious side.
Sure.
I'm gonna try to space those out so we don't die. This is actually from our audio engineer, who had some thoughts while he was listening to all of the audio.
Liam?
Yeah, Liam.
Gallagher,
Liam Gallagher.
right?
Liam Gallagher.
Yep.
Yeah. And he said that I found while editing the game, that. Sorry, this sentence. Okay, so I had to when looking at some of the lines in like the individual, he felt that like sometimes he had said things similar to that, or like taken a position similar to that before, and listening to the game caused him to do some just reflection on a lot of his past events. Like, was I as bad as this person? And
you mean that he actually related to some of the lines?
Yeah, he's like, I've said something similar to that.
Yep.
And this just triggered some like, you know, self-reflection on his part, and some of our playtesters had similar experiences where they're like, oh, maybe I have been like a little bit like that. So with that in mind, maybe this is a question for both of us, but is it as simple to say that Josh is the villain in this game? He's
absolutely.
a big bad boss.
I wouldn't say that he's a big bad boss, but I would definitely say I can recognize him as an asshole. But playing him, I can't play him and have him believe that he's an asshole.
Right, yeah, of course.
So, I mean, the lines have to be... Villains always think they're right. They always actually think they're generally the good guys. Villains don't think they're villains. They don't always twirl the mustache and things like that. A lot of times, even villains that like want to literally destroy the world have a good reason in their own justification. In the fact that if Josh, then that means I've done at least part of my job right. If people relate to some of the stuff that Josh says, then, and have caused them to reflect on some of the things that they've said, Why did they say it? Were they protecting themselves? Were they projecting onto the other person? Were they trying to offload the emotional and mental burden on someone else? Or did they actually have a point? I mean, Josh isn't a mustache twirling villain, he's an asshole, but a broken clock is right twice a day is the only thing that I can say. I can't. It's a weird line because I don't want to say, like, sometimes Josh, this asshole fucking douchebag white knight tech bro fuckstick.
Yeah.
It's also context. Even if he said something that you may have said, it's not necessarily in the same way or used the same way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I can kind of speak to that, and I was kind of talking about this before of like trying to communicate or make people understand like how a sentence that seems reasonable when bereft of context and history.
And that's a technique of abusers.
Yeah, it can be something more, and like sometimes people aren't even cognizant that they're doing this, and I don't think Josh is self-aware that like he's deploying all these techniques. It's not like he's not like playing chess with your mind.
Right.
At least not in a
conscious way.
Conscious way.
Yeah.
It's just like learned behaviors. This is something that we were talking about when I showed the game at a relationship lab that studies relationships at Simon Fraser University here in Vancouver. Talking about like, people learn the sort of behaviors that get them what they want or help them, and depending on what environment they've grown up in or experiences they've had, like they learn certain things work. Like they learn, oh, like someone's mad at me, but I get all pathetic and hating on myself, and people will stop being mad at me. Yeah, they don't necessarily like think of it on those terms. Right. It's just like
I'm gonna get pathetic and cry and get small. Like
like someone's mad at me, and this is just my reflexive response. That's just sort of what's worked.
That doesn't always make it right.
Oh no,
it doesn't excuse the behavior.
Oh no, yeah, and that's what like I think makes talking about whether or not, I think the question is Josh like evil? And like I think it is, like I think Josh is an asshole. I think I wouldn't like if there was a Josh in your life and you just blocked them and walked away and ghosted them and never talked to them again, like that's the right thing for you to do, I think. And like I wouldn't judge that person at all. But I think like stepping outside of the moral framework and just trying to, I think, understand why all this has happened is also an illustrative exercise.
It's a worthwhile thing to think about, but it's also, has the person had the opportunity to change?
Yeah.
And did they choose to or not? Because changing is hard. Good shit is always on the other side of bad shit when you're doing self-reflective stuff. And some people do have the opportunity. There's moments, and sometimes you don't recognize them, and sometimes you do. You can be like, this is a behavior that I need to change. I've hurt somebody else because of this thing. And whether or not it's a learned behavior or a cycle of abuse, you have to have the control, some of the control and some of the power to hopefully in those moments be able to change your behavior and stop being that way.
Yeah, for sure. It's not so much like, oh, like don't be mean to the person because it's not their fault. Certainly not. That's not what I was wanted to.
Oh no. I just wanted to clarify. This is a sticky wicket. I don't think Josh is evil. I think Josh is weak.
Yeah.
I think he's a weak person.
He's chosen to, like, instead of learning how to make for himself, he's chosen to harvest from others. And like use other people.
Yep.
And maybe there's the potential for him to learn not to do that. But yeah, you're right. Certainly, like, it's not like you haven't told them. That's kind of the part of the thing. Is like you tell them.
Well, because then they got all that ego piled on top of them, and then it doesn't penetrate because there's no way for it to. Because they just keep telling themselves how fucking awesome they are and how it's never their fault.
Yeah.
Not that I've known any.
I think playing the game and seeing like, oh, I've said something like this. I think it's fair to say that doesn't automatically mean you're the terrible person.
Yeah.
But maybe it is good that like you've
you
come face to face with that and said, like that's something to think about, and then I can like be a bit more aware, and maybe it's just like what I said makes sense in the context. Maybe there's something else going on. Maybe it's complicated. It's both.
And that's a moment of choice.
Yeah.
That's one of those moments of choice. If you're faced with something like that, what do you choose to do in that moment? Do you face it? Do you examine it? And you might come across, you might face it and examine it and be like, okay, here's where I may have been wrong, or even, no, in the context of this, I stand by my original standpoint, and you still come away with some self-knowledge. Or do you choose to ignore it and justify it away?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew.
In my personal experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna get freaking swole with all these heavy questions.
Okay, let's move on to something a bit lighter.
Okay.
So you said that you worked for like indie and not indie and AAA.
Well, I've worked one AAA thing. Let's not. Well, all right. Depending on how you term it, I've worked one like AAA thing, one big AAA thing.
Okay. So I've
worked some AA. I don't really know how the rating system works.
You've
let's say mostly
here
indie games and some like bigger ones, I guess.
Have there been any colorful experiences or silliness that happened?
One of my favorite moments in my career was doing Glenn Gardner's Son for Baldur's Gate: Siege of Dragonspear. The writer for Glint, the writer for the majority of Glint, Andrew Foley, there was one line, he was in the session and helping to direct it. One of the lines was by Baravar Cloak Shadow's Cloak Shadow. Baravar, so Baravar Cloak Shadow is the name of the gnomish god of thieves in the Forgotten Realms and trickery.
Okay.
So by Cloak Shadow's Cloak's Shadow. So Cloak Shadow is his name.
Okay.
So
by Cloak Shadow.
By Cloak Shadow.
As in like by God.
By Cloak Shadows.
Yeah.
Cloak's Shadow. So by the shadow of the cloak belonging to Cloak Shadow is essentially what that means. Like it's an epitaph. Like by Morden's beard. By
right.
Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. So he wrote that, and like we got to that line, and he goes like, "Yeah, if you need me to," and I was like, "No, let me give it a shot. Let me do it." And like I did it like 3 times, and he was just like, "Well, fuck," and like threw his pencil up in the air. It was just like, "All right, great. I thought we were gonna have to rewrite that, and you nailed it, and good job, and fuck," and like, and then we just laughed for like 5 minutes, and it was great, and I felt very special, and it was cool, and it's one of my favorite lines of the game. Glint is. I made a huge actor mistake with Glint. I got really attached to him.
Yeah.
I fucking love him. I love him. Oh god. Yeah. I want more. I want.
I
want Glint in goddamn everything.
You said a huge acting mistake by getting too attached. What do you mean by that?
So it is in my mind, and again, this is Jacob Fu voice acting. Anything that I say, salt and pepper to your own taste, okay? This is not gospel, it's just what worked for me and what I found. Take anything that I say, examine it, and adjust it to whatever it is that you need to do, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Need or want to do as far as voice acting and stuff goes. But I find it much healthier to, as an actor, be a mercenary, be able to do the thing, invest in the thing, do the thing fully and completely and vulnerably, and then set it aside and just be like, that was a good experience, and then you put it in the box and set it on the shelf and it's done. With Glint, I got too attached, and there is a part of me, whether or not anybody else thinks this or agrees with it, there's a part of me that feels that that's, like I'm not finished with Glint. Like there's still more to do, I guess. And yeah, and I love him, and he's a great character, and I love Andrew Foley's writing, and I want to do more with him, but that isn't up to me. It's, there's market forces, and, how much money, and is it going to be more, there's adult video game industry things that are considered in that. So, there's a part of me that's like, man, I really like to do more with Glint, so I'm always going to have this like kind of hanging thread in my mind, but I still am mature enough, and I understand how the game industry works that may never happen. But
Right.
I love him to bits. But I'm always gonna have this like little like it'd be really great.
Right. Yes, you can never fully, as much as intellectually you take on that
Right.
understanding
Yes.
that like it's a job, I
Yep.
do the job, and I'm out, and I got paid, and that's wage labor.
And that's wage labor, and it's not that I don't care about things. I care about every game that I've been in immensely, and I do.
Yeah.
I don't get paid to do marketing and things like this. You know, it's just stuff that I do because I love it. I'm doing this because I want this to succeed, and I'm hoping that doing this Q&A will help that.
Yeah.
You know, it's I don't feel taken advantage of. This is something that I chose to do. It's not for exposure or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not to say being a mercenary doesn't mean you don't give a shit, but you have a job to do and you have to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
And I care about everything that I've ever done, and I'm appreciative of everything that I've ever done, because everything that I've ever done is in no uncertain terms a miracle. It should not have happened, but it did, and I am very, very grateful that I hopefully continue to get to do things like this. But they feel complete. They are done.
Yeah.
And I can take them down and look at them, and it's great. Glint very quietly screams at me from the corner of my mind. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Which is fine and totally. It's shut up.
Yeah, I think it's we're definitely not going to be bringing you back for this character.
I'm when we're done with this, I'm very happy when it's out the door and off into the world, and I'm happy for this to be. I mean, no offense, but this is fucking brutal.
Yeah, I think within the context of this project, if we never see each other again, that would be for the best.
Within the context of this project, if we never see each other again,
that would be
the best. Yes.
Yeah.
When I come to Full India, if you want to hang out and have a drink and commiserate and maybe cry into some whiskey, awesome.
Yeah, and definitely I noticed during the course of doing this recording, we got a lot of not bloopers because they were mistakes, but just moments of you forcing levity into
man. Yep.
just some nonsense coming out of the mic, which I think was good for both of us.
Yeah, and I definitely think that we should put something like that out there so people can see I'm not a monster.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's important. All right, well, we're coming near the end of our time, so do you have any, I don't know, final comments?
I mean, it's okay. I mean, I don't mind hanging out a little bit more if somebody else has a question they'd like answered.
All right, well,
because that's I like talking with people.
All right, I'll give people.
Is that okay with you? I mean,
yeah, no, it's good with me. Yeah.
I'm not like trying to socially force anything.
No.
If it's the end of the time, it's the end of the time.
I'll see if anyone has anything else to contribute.
Cool.
But yeah.
Because I can't see the chat or anything. I'm looking at the back of your monitors.
So what are you going to be doing to decompress after all this is done, or do you even get that opportunity?
Not
schedule.
Not this weekend, unfortunately. I have I'm going to try to decompress a little bit at the hotel that I have, but I actually have a wedding that I am attending and hosting here in Vancouver. So I added the day extra on the trip to do this, and then I'm going to be attending a wedding to two of my very, very good friends, Lucas Johnson and Ken Glass, and it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
Right.
Yeah.
It just means that there's
not much. I might try to play some Hearthstone tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will have to go through all of this audio again to do all the.
Yeah. I get to go. You know what? Actually, I'm probably gonna go do some research into South Asia and Southeast Asia and stuff. I'm gonna start doing some more prep for the Wraith job.
Well, at least it gets your mind on something different that you're excited about.
It's about sad ghosts. Wraith the Oblivion's a really fucking sad game. It's all about what happens after you die.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not actually familiar with it at all.
Oh shit, man! You want to talk about World of Darkness anytime? Book 3 hours.
So is it a World of Darkness based RPG system?
Oh yeah.
Okay, because I'm familiar with World of Darkness.
Oh yeah, no, it's Wraith. It's what happens after you can die. After the World of Darkness fucking eats you, it's not done. Yeah, no.
Because I think I played a LARP that used the vampire one.
Oh, Mind's Eye Theater, yeah.
Yeah, which back when I was in Waterloo, and mostly
Cool.
that was people constantly talking as if they had like 8,000 fucking plans up their sleeves of how they were gonna like murder everyone else and get to the top of the ladder.
Welcome to Vampire.
Just posturing for days long, and I was
Yeah.
just like, I don't know what's going on. My sire was killed day one.
Great.
The character who
Super fun. That sounds like a LARP.
All right. Well, it looks like there's no more questions left.
Okay.
So unless you have any closing comments, feelings, you've already poured out so much in both the booth and here.
I just take care of yourself, everybody, please.
Yeah.
And take care of each other. Holy
Sweet.
crap.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone who joined us, and
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate you stopping by. Thank you.
And we'll be posting this copy of this video on YouTube over the next couple of days, so anyone who wasn't here to see it live will be able to see it as well.
Is there going to be a video on demand on Twitch, a VOD on Twitch as well?
I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't entirely know how Twitch works.
Great.
I know that I have a recording of this.
Good.
And I can put it on YouTube.
Let's
Twitch
do that.
also has one. Good for Twitch.
Cool.
And yeah, if you're interested in any more project updates, you can. We post updates on our Kickstarter, and all that gets posted on our Twitter at It's You Breakup. All right. Do you have any? What's your Twitter handle?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, which I am the most active on, it's at Jacob Burgess VO. JACOB BURGESS. V is in Victor. O is in Oblivion.
Sweet. All right. I've done all the things you're supposed to do at the end of the video.
Cool.
All right. Excellent. Bye, everyone.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
How do I turn this off?